Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guest lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange. If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park.
The first two races in North America were tracks where drivers may have been able to pull knowledge from real-life experience. However, it might be a bit more rare to find drivers who set foot at this circuit. Suzuka is legendary, but with it being all the way on the other side of the globe, will it be too foreign for some to master? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 10 Club Class live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Cameron Aubernon is on social media, and Ryan Bauer is producing while using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But before we get to the racing, Series 10 is brought to you by the Porsche Exchange, which has been family owned and operated for over 40 years. Located on the North Shore of Chicago, the Porsche Exchange is going to be the largest volume Porsche dealer in the entire Midwest. Along the way, they've won the Porsche Premier Dealership Award for many years in a row and has been chosen to be one of the few Porsche exclusive manufacturer dealerships in the entire country. Find out more at forporsche.com or follow them at Porsche Exchange on Instagram. Also, Six Sigma Sim Racing is proud to announce the Season 10 Clean Driver Award. One driver in each PCA Sim Racing class will win a Six Sigma Sim Racing $250 merchandise gift certificate. This goes to whoever earns the fewest incident points and license penalty points from their best 6 races this season. For more information, head to sixsigmasimracing.com. That's the number 6, sigmasimracing.com. Well, as we said, DJ, we're here at Suzuka, a track that is certainly going to test drivers on its technicality.
Yeah, it most certainly is, Joe. This is really and truly a driver's delight of a circuit. It may not be the easiest to get an overtake done around here, but it is a challenge to get this right. Going through the sweeping, decreasing radius turn 1 section up through the S's, then into Dunlop, the Degners, Hairpin, Spoon, 130R, the Casio Triangle. These names are as famous as this circuit itself. It requires a lot of commitment to get right, but if you're able to master that lap, you are in for a real treat as you drive around here.
Absolutely. So we'll see who's got the skills to try and get the speed out of this place. And just got a few minutes left here in the qualifying session. We've got Scott Bowers currently who is on the screen needing to set a time, interestingly. So first 2 laps, and they only get 3 of them. He had them deleted. There's a few places where you can dip the tires a little bit too far off, and he must have done that. So this is going to be oh so important that he gets a clean one in. We'll see if it does, as he's only got a couple more corners, DJ.
Yeah, he's going to bring it down now into the Casio Triangle. Now, this will be one of the areas where we will be looking for those overtakes, but you've got to be careful coming through here. You don't want to get on the curbs too much and unsettle these cars, especially considering we're driving the Porsche 992 Cup cars here, which means no traction control and no ABS. Bowers, though, doesn't look like he's going to get a time there on the next time. No, he does. He is able to get on the board. Excuse me.
Yeah, and that was important because he qualified 7th. That would have been a heck of a climb having to come up from back there if he hadn't have set a time, because we're down to only Mike Sachs and Brandon Harrison who still are able to set a time. This is Harrison on your screen right now coming out of the Casio Triangle, and he puts down a 2:05.8. That puts him up to 39th. Sachs is on his final flying lap right now, coming along the backstretch up into 130R. Well, Keith Powell also is missing a lap, but he's not on the track, so he may be done in his qualifying. We'll have to start from all the way down in 41st or 42nd place here. It's a big field, so not really the time that you wanted to have a bad qualifying. Let's see what the 599 has underneath him. as he comes to the line. Will this one count for him? Yes, a 2:04.9, and that will jump him up into 35th. So a small leap, but a leap nonetheless.
Yeah, he's going to be able to at least get himself ahead of a couple of drivers, and that'll be crucial at the start because the way that first corner really funnels the car down, it starts as a big, wide open turn-in, and then you've got to kind of get on the brakes as you're unloading the steering wheel. It's going to be pretty tricky, and I think it could cause a couple of drivers to maybe have a little bit of a problem, but we'll have to wait and see because it looks like we're ready to take to the grid.
Indeed, and on the pole, it's going to be Robbie Prescott with Chris Cook starting in second place. Kerry Brooks will be P3. Jochen Baker with a great qualifying there in fourth, as Jonathan Fields will be P5, and Peter Sigourney starts sixth. Then it's Scott Bowers in seventh position. After that, Robert Lacroix will be in eighth, as Gary Reese starts P9, and Lyle Eddy rounds out your top 10.
In 11th, it's going to be Scott Kessel, followed by David Glenn, with Brett Holmes and Joe Sinclair in the row behind them. Then it'll be Terrence Tong in 15th and Kim Fricky in 16th. Matthew Yokel will be 17th with J.R. Gregory to his outside. Then it's Dean Chapman and Jake Steinbrink to round out your top 20.
We'll show you the rest of the fields here, all the way down to that 42nd position, although I do not see Mazzariello in the session, so we might only have 41 starting here today. We'll see if he manages to get himself out onto the track. Now, a reminder that PCA Sim Racing social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing. Definitely don't want to miss anything here with 4 different classes, I guess 5 really, with the entry class as well, that compete at these tracks. And it'll be important to try and keep up with all that's happening in this really thriving series. As you can tell, it's a little bit gloomy out on this one, DJ, and that means it's quite a cold track.
Yeah, only 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and I think that means on the first couple of laps in particular, and especially after the drop of the green flag, you're going to have to keep your eyes out for that track temperature and those tire temperatures. You put a lot of lateral load going through the car, and it can be very, very tricky to make sure you get everything right. And so we could see a driver or two maybe finding themselves in a little bit of problems coming through the snake if they don't take care of those tires and watch out for them.
Frustration for Mazzariello. He was able to reconnect, but he was not able to get on the grid in time, so he'll have to start from pit lane. As we watch them now come up towards the Casio Triangle, Prescott and Cook have been 2 of the big challengers, as well as Brooks up there. Been all very fast and consistent in the first 2 races, but we're in a different car once again. This time, the Cup car, the new 992 that they're racing. Let's see what it looks like as they get ready to go for the green flag, waiting patiently for Barney to wave it. Taking quite a bit of time here before they get up towards the start-finish line, and there it is finally, and they start to accelerate away. Robbie is on the throttle, but look at the fight for second place. They're 3 wide coming up into the first 2 turns. This is going to be a scary place to try and make that work, and it looks like 2 of them going to back out, as it's going to be Cook that comes out ahead of the pair of them behind. I'm not seeing any incidents so far. We're nice and clean.
Yeah, a couple of drivers just dipping a toe off into the little bit of the rumble strips, but they were able to keep it together. Looked like Kerry Brooks was going to have a bit of a fight trying to go on the back of Chris Cook coming up through the S's, but nothing doing there here at this point. But these top 4 are starting to break away here. Prescott's got a pretty good advantage, but Cook, Brooks, and Baker now have a 1.1 second gap over Peter Sigourney, as now Sigourney goes side by side with Jonathan Fields.
They've been wheel to wheel through the whole S's, now coming up into the Degners. Finally, Sigourney's going to give way. Fields will take that 5th position as they break into this tricky double right-hander. Watching there in the background to see if anybody has an off. Still doing very excellent here today. Everybody minding their P's and Q's. They hit the hairpin for the first time, but not seeing many attempts at a pass here.
No, and frankly, because of the sequence of corners that leads up into that hairpin, it's going to be a little bit difficult to get a move done, although I am seeing a couple of drivers going for it. I think Jake Steinbrink may have had a problem as he's falling down through the order.
He spun it around. I'm not sure if he had help, but he did a 180 there and wound up off the course. Thankfully, everybody was able to make their way around. He was the only one that winds up facing the wrong way. Meanwhile, Prescott now nearly a second ahead of Chris Cook, trying to pull away as much as he can.
Yeah, trying to see if he can build that gap. Able to get it over a second. That's going to get him out of pretty much that draft range, and that's really what he's going to want to do as we take a look a little farther back down the field. Everybody coming through 130R right now. Ooh, a little bit of a look there from Brooks going into the corner. He's going to lock it up and miss the corner.
Completely. Unfortunately, that's going to be a big cut course penalty here with that happening on the first lap. Stays off to the side to try to stay out of everybody's way. And we'll see if he's able to serve that in time. Often you take a lot of pain if you wind up cutting the course on the very first lap here in the iRacing sim. And still taking a lot of time for that 77 to get rid of that. Is down into the corner, and behind them, that's Lyle Eddy managing to go by, I think, Gary Reese.
Yeah, there was another good move there of Robert Lacroix able to send a move on Scott Bowers as Bowers is falling down through the order here a little bit. We ride on board with the 917 is now up in front of them. There's a little bit of too wide. That's Kerry Brooks. I think that's a big slowdown again for Brooks.
Yeah, still fighting the same one, and finally he was able to give it away. And apologies, that was Lacroix over Bowers, not Eddy over Reese that I saw. Behind them looks like Klaus Nielsen also going very slowly. Not sure what the reason for that was. As we continue to watch here up towards the front, Joe Sinclair here in P12 trying to give an attack on David Glenn.
Yeah, he's going to try to get the power down off of the corner here, off of that second Degner. Now going to fly down into the hairpin. Let's see if Glenn takes a little bit of defensive line. That's exactly what he's going to do. Just covering off any opportunity there that Sinclair was going to have to throw a move, and Sinclair's going to have to wait for another corner here at this point.
Now coming up into the long right-hander that'll lead you up into Spoon. Very difficult set of turns, very swift set of turns here that the drivers will have to manage. And then coming out of there, down.
At this point, continuing to go down into 130R as they run. Long field of cars here streaming out behind, but it looks like these leaders are absolutely pulling away at the front of the field.
Yeah, it's looking really good for Prescott today. He's got this one under control. And behind them, a little bit of a battle now into the Casio triangle, but unfortunately not close enough for anybody to actually try and get by. Peter Sigourney still fending off Robert Lacroix.
Yeah, still able to fend him off here at this point. As there you see that long train of cars coming down into the braking zone. Here goes Sigourney, just trying to see if he's able to keep his own line there as the 64 continues to go around. Looking to see here, you really can't get a move done coming up through the S's, but he's going to try to put pressure onto the back of him nonetheless.
Still trying to make him get offline. Could be critical here through the S's to see if he can try and do that instead and get him to shake off of there, as now they come up into the Dunlop curve. Long left-hander here, and he's approaching the braking into the Degners, but not nearly close enough to try something that risky this early.
Yeah, you really don't want to go for a move up into the Degners there. As I said, so many areas on this track where you think it's going to be a good overtaking opportunity, but they are a little bit of a slip up from Sigourney. This could be the opportunity that Lacroix needs, but Sigourney's going to cover off that inside line going down into the hairpin. That's going to cover him off. These two had better get themselves sorted out here pretty quick, though, Joe. Scott Bowers, Lyle Eddy, they're not going to be waiting around for too long.
Yeah, there's a whole train of cars behind them. Gary Reese is in there. Kerry Brooks is still trying to make up for his mistake. Glenn Sinclair. So they're kind of getting backed up, unfortunately. And as they approach into Spoon, you're still seeing little pokes and prods out of the number 64. If he can get a good exit here, and it doesn't look like he's got it. I was going to say, that's really what he needs, is that good run coming up to the chicane.
Yeah, and he just didn't look like he was able to get the run off of Spoon to be able to do that. Probably a little bit of aero wake that he's having to deal with. He's going to be close behind here. You noticed he turned in a little bit early there going into 130R. And immediately that 222 of Sigourney covering off the inside, covering off the outside, not letting anything go. Not the best run there through Casio, though, for Sigourney. This could open up an opportunity.
Indeed. Sometimes you'll see passes into the first turn. If Lacroix can manage to just get side by side, I'm not sure if he's got enough slipstream. It's a pretty good exit, but he runs out of straightaway, and they'll have to stay single file.
Yeah, they're going to have to hold back here at this point as we ride on board with J.R. Gregory back down in 16th position. That's Terrence Tong right ahead of him, only about 3.5 tenths of a second the gap as they work their way through the corner right now. Going to come up through the S's, and this is going to be the area for Gregory where he's really going to have to be working hard here, Joe. That bit of aero wake that he's going to be dealing with coming off the back of the car there, coming off of Tong's car, it's going to really upset it, and he is going to have to really work to make sure that he's able to get through those corners cleanly.
Absolutely, and you can see how much he drops off as we're now checking in with the driver he's trying to pass, Terrence Tong, and I can report that Mark Lacombe was black flagged, unfortunately, for something that happened early on. Somebody off course there, Mark Lacombe, and that was the driver that was just black flagged. Guess he got distracted by the note.
Yeah, I guess he did as well. A little bit of action there up in front of the 388 machine. I think that was David Glenn and Kim Fricke almost going side by side down to the hairpin, but that's going to separate itself out now as we work our way through 200R up the hill. Here is David Glenn that we just mentioned. That's Fricke behind him. Had a little bit of a look going into the hairpin, but I haven't seen him move quite yet for him.
No, not there at the moment. Kim Fricke's still keeping them honest, though, as they exit out of Spoon Curve and up the backstretch. Going to be split by roughly half a second between them as they climb up and over the crest. A lot of elevation change at this circuit, just not as many corners that really see the crest right where you have the apex. And like that, it seems that David Glenn's paint scheme kind of matches his decor, as we got a car off now. Off screen, Gary Reese has unfortunately had to cut the chicane.
Yeah, I think I saw to the corner of my eye there, Joe, that he just got a little bit too hot coming down into the corner and locked up the brakes. And remember, we talked about this, no ABS in these cars, which means that it is very, very easy to get a lockup. Oh, as Jonathan Fields is now around coming through turn one.
Not sure what happened here, if he had any sort of help, but he's falling way down the order, waiting patiently for some sort of opening. Could have maybe had something there, but still staying stationary. Let's take a second look at it here. As, yeah, that timer on the left-hand side was live, so that's why the positions were continuing to drop. And, yeah, that was just the rear coming around all on his lonesome.
Yeah, I think he may have drifted off into the AstroTurf there around the outside. He's doing the right thing here, just kind of waiting for everybody to go around him here at this point. Unfortunately, it's going to drop him all the way back down to 40th position, dead last on the field. But we're going to come back up here to this battle between Sigourney and Lacroix, because it looks like Sigourney's having to go very defensive.
Oh, and maybe a little bit too much as Lacroix is going to sneak by down into the hairpin. Behind them, no one else able to take advantage. Peter only falls down to 5th place. Robert finally snatching up that P4 he's been trying for some time.
Well, his biggest problem that he's going to have to deal with here at this point is now he's going to have it all to do, because there's a 4-second gap between himself and Joachim Baker up ahead of him. So he's really got to put the pedal down if he wants to close in the final 50 minutes of this race.
Yeah, those top three have just skidded away from everybody, but Kerry Brooks, the next one, hoping to try and make up a position. Remember, Kerry had that slowdown penalty coming through the chicane here that we're coming up to, the Casio Triangle. And that's what slowed him down and put him back in this 8th position. Hasn't really been able to make many inroads up to this stage. We'll see if maybe later in the race he can manage to find a little bit pace over everybody. They're all on the same setup in this series, so it's all down to the driver and how you manage those tires.
And that's going to be a big thing here. The track temperatures are cooler, as we talked about at the beginning of the race, which is going to help things and keep those tires in a little bit of the better window. But over an hour-long race, you are going to have to manage tire wear. This is a very, very different circuit in terms of tire abrasion. Obviously, Japanese asphalt is a different construction than what we are used to seeing in Europe or elsewhere, and so that changes the grip level. And the other thing here is, because there are so many medium to high speed corners, you put so much lateral load through these tires that it really causes them to wear quickly.
Got to imagine those rears are going to be screaming by the end of it with all that weight on the back of the car. Lyle Eddy here in 7th place with Scott Bowers just in front of him, but also Gary Brooks breathing down his neck. Great exit here. Could Eddy maybe have a chance coming into the hairpin? We've seen one pass into there, but no, he's going to back out of it.
He's going to back out of it. Almost gets into the back there of Bowers as they come through the corner. Got to be a little bit of a close run there. It was behind Brooks, Sinclair. They're all closing in onto the back here as this is becoming a true 4-car train right now behind Scott Bowers.
Scott, the last amongst the top drivers to have a 0X. Everybody else in front of him has not gone off the circuit at all by this point. Also, Gary Reese had another problem. Don't need to go to it, but he spun out coming out of the hairpin.
Yeah, and that's just once again a result of that lack of traction control, getting onto the throttle a little bit too early. As there we watch Robbie Prescott, your leader, just having a beautiful little Wednesday drive here. He doesn't have to worry about anything around him.
It's already up to 4 seconds, more than 4 seconds, and he's just coming on to lap 7 here, so really outgunning Chris Cook today and just scampering away. There you see that 47 behind him. Baker is just about a second and a half back there in the background of the gold and black machine. So he's a little bit closer to maybe try and fight for that P2, but he's going to have to get a little bit tighter that rear end. Meanwhile, Kim Fricke here is fighting Brett Holmes along with David Glenn. This is for the 10th position, down into turn 1. Nobody willing to try and risk it quite yet.
No, and we're only about a quarter of the way down in the race. I would expect those moves to get thrown here a little bit later on as we continue to go. But for right now, I think everybody's relatively content to stay behind. But we are seeing a couple of these trains starting to form here, Joe. And I think for some of the drivers that may find themselves in a train, oh, we've got a little bit of side-by-side here between Bowers and Eddy as they come up through. My goodness, this is intense.
Yeah, this is a real danger zone for this sort of thing. It's a game of chicken into the corner. Eddy's going to lose out. It also opens him up to Brooks, but he covers him off immediately.
That was absolute insanity, as now Sinclair's got to check up his momentum a little bit behind Kerry Brooks. Had a look down to the inside there of the right-hander before the hairpin, and that's not going to play itself out, as these cars are going to come out of the hairpin the same way they went into it. But a very strange line. Is that a slowdown penalty there for Bowers?
That's the best I can guess. Maybe he cut one of the Degners a little too close. I'm not sure where else he could have gotten that slowdown penalty. And Eddy goes on by. Bowers taking a little bit of a peek back to the inside. Nothing doing there. Stays in line. A 4-car race here as it, my goodness, it is an absolute traffic jam behind them. Someone going very slowly. I think that is Fernandez there, who's almost coming to a crawl.
Yeah, that's got to be a big slowdown penalty there. Mike Sachs, Derek Dirksen in a little bit of a side-by-side battle coming up through 200R, as now Sachs is going to set his eyes on Richard Franco. Up ahead of him, Brandon Harrison as well. Sachs didn't get the run off of Spoon that I think he would have wanted to, but he was looking like he was threatening. Let's go back in and check on this battle up for P6.
Well, the bad news for Fernandez is it was not a slowdown penalty. It was a black and orange flag. He got the meatball for too much damage, and that was just because he was kind of an innocent victim. There was a big stack up down to the hairpin, and he was just at the wrong place at the wrong time and kind of got hit, as well as T-boned another driver. I think it was Jason Grovigan they got into. Meanwhile, Brandon Harrison here in the number 22 is trying to chase down Dean Chapman just in front of him, and he's got a good run as he shifts up to high gear into 6th, but it's not enough straight away.
Yeah, just not enough straightaway, and that's really what we're seeing out of a lot of these drivers. And Joe, now that we have ticked down under the 15 minutes down in this race section of the broadcast, I think it's worth talking here at this point about fuel strategy. With just as difficult as we're seeing it to be able to get on by here today, I think making a move in the pits may be the best way to go.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. It's time to start thinking about how you want to try and make that work. We're with Avijit Barua behind Adam Chick. Also worth noting that Harrison, who we're watching, is our hardest charger right now. He's up 18 positions. Finally, we're getting a little bit more sun on certain parts of the track.
Yeah, we are indeed, and that's going to all make some big changes here already. Already the track temperatures come up by about 2 degrees Fahrenheit. It's up to 72, so I've got to imagine here that these drivers are probably hoping that the sun's going to go back behind the clouds. I know we as viewers want to see these gorgeous views here that our director Ryan Power is able to give us, but these drivers want to keep these track temperatures cool. They want to keep these tires in as good of a window as possible.
Absolutely. Also, we had another black flag for Mike Matson. So he's been sent down to pit lane. Doesn't look like he has served that one yet. So still needs to circle around and come on in. What about Brooks? He really does not want to be giving up valuable points here because he's currently up into second in the points right now with his good first race. Now, they have not counted one of the 2 races so far, but it's still been very consistent. His second one wasn't that bad either. So him finishing in 8th will be a bit of a blow and will kind of force him to maybe make this one his drop round if he doesn't have anything worse than this. 8th place not going to be satisfactory. He now weaves into the S's section and still is on the tail of Scott Bowers.
Yeah, and look at this. I've got to commend Brooks here. So silky smooth coming up through the S's. You don't see a lot of back and forth on the wheel. That is, going to be able to keep your speed up as much as possible, as you're not really going to have a lot of tire scrub. And the other part of that is that's going to save your tires. So that is a very, very good run there for Kerry. That car looks like it is doing very well.
They exit out of Degner 2. Still just glued to the back bumper of that pink and white number 917. But he's not close enough to try something down into the hairpin. Behind them, Joe Sinclair kind of giving watch. It's a 3-car train, not too far apart from a couple other cars both in front and behind of them. So we'll see if they are caught or can catch those up in front. But for now, whoa, big dive. And I was going to say, I don't think Kerry Brooks could do anything here in his spoon, but boy, he outbraked Bowers by a wide margin.
Yeah, he certainly did. Really, really showing the muscle there in that number 77. But now Brooks has got to be careful. Sinclair is on the hunt as well in that number 212 machine coming up behind. And David Glenn not too far behind either. Let's see if he's able to keep up the gap here coming through 130R though. Oh, he's not. He's going to lose out. I don't think he's going to be able to make that move into Casio.
No, not this time at least, as they all weave their way through one of the slowest corners on the track and then back onto the front stretch. Long curving right-hander, though, that leads you onto there. Getting onto that throttle through there smoothly, going to be so important. Also, I'm seeing, if I'm seeing this correctly, Jason Brodigan getting 2 black flags back-to-back. Not sure what that is about. But he is going to be suffering from that one as they stay in order. Bowers not overtaken by Brooks, and Brooks not overtaken by Sinclair.
No, they're not going to be able to do anything, and they're probably not going to be able to get a pass done here coming up through the snake. But let's see, a little bit of a poke to the inside there for the 77 of Kerry Brooks. And now that car's going to be all kinds of slideways contact there with Joe Sinclair.
Oof. If they're already getting into contact only 40 minutes in, this is going to get elbows out by the end. I know it's tough to pass, but they got to try and keep this together. He's backs off just a little bit for now to give them some space. This is also bringing in David Glenn in that 172, currently in the top 10 here, just within that marker. We'll see if he can make any more up as they approach the hairpin once more. Everybody accordioning together down into this tight left-hander. Oh, a little deep there from David Glenn, and that's going to cost him a car length or 2.
Yeah, it's going to cost him a little bit of time there, and I'll tell you who loved seeing that is Bowers. That may be an internet connection issue there, but Bowers is listed as out of the race, and he's fallen down through the order.
Yeah, I didn't see him go by, so I'm with you. I think this is probably some sort of connection problem. I'm keeping an eye if he's going to reappear, or if we get the text message in the sim that he has lost connection, and neither's happened quite yet, so he's in limbo, and it's been for a very long time, and now he is back finally. Oh, but he's going slow to 130R, and that causes a checkup. 2 cars getting into the back of him.
My goodness gracious, that is the worst case scenario, just about the worst place that you could have that issue pop up. My goodness gracious. David Glenn catching a little bit of that. I think Brooks Sinclair caught a little bit of it as well.
Yeah, Sinclair and Glenn were the two that came in and basically piled into one another's rear bumper. It was a big hit for Glenn, so I wouldn't be surprised if he has some damage off of that. Scott Bowers heads into the pit lane, I'm assuming either to check on his router or just try and maybe get a little bit of damage repaired.
Could be a little bit of column A, could be a little bit of column B there, Joe. But I'll tell you what, this battle now has separated itself out just a little bit. Joe Sinclair leading a little bit of the pack here that was behind that incident with Bowers. And now Brett Holmes and Kim Fricke are going to try to close in a little bit more.
Now down through Dunlop Curve once again here. Drivers have been having a very clean race, but it looks like it's also been a bit of a frustrating race for a few out there with a difficulty in trying to make up positions. Brett Holmes having gained a couple from all that. He's up 4. Fricke behind him is up 6. Sinclair's also up 6, kind of capitalizing on all that's been going on. Looks like we had a bit of a spin from Mike Sachs a little bit farther down in the Dunlop Curve. He gets the car rolling. In the meantime, you can see that is Jeremy Mazzariello, who had to join the race a little bit late, unfortunately, that just went by him. It was actually a very close moment here for Mike Sachs as he tried to get the car going. He didn't do anything wrong, but was nearly hit around that blind left-hander. Let's take a look at the replay.
Yeah, and there you can see no damage on the front of that 599. I've got a sneaking suspicion that Sachs picked up the damage here at this little bit of an incident. Car almost out of control there, coming down through Dunlop, and just a hit to the front end of the car. And a very close call there with Velez, Joe.
He found enough space. Actually had to go onto the grass there just to find his way by. Great heads up by Velez. Again, you couldn't really see what was going on until pretty late there. And just managed to find the space to sneak through. Looking back down, Bowers is back out on track, and it doesn't look like, or is he? No, I am seeing him having lost connection once again. So Bowers having yet more troubles, and I wouldn't doubt if he's been given, if he's going to be given a warning by the stewards pretty soon. Meanwhile, in 17th place, Ben Leon side by side with Adamczyk. Adamczyk does not fight it hard, and through turn 1, he's going to allow Ben up to P16.
I think that's probably the good call here at this point in the race, Joe. If you are Patrick Adamczyk, you're still up 7 positions since the drop of the green flag, and you don't want to let up too much space with them behind there as they go, because Mario Gonzalez and Robert Walton are certainly closing in behind, and I think if he were to fight that with Leung, he could have lost more than 1 position.
Switching back and forth through the S's until they reach that Dunlop Curve. And just putting all the pressure on those right side tires. Harrison is well behind them, looking like he's struggling a little bit. You can see there in the background, he's got Chapman all over him. And here we see the separation of the cars. They haven't met lap traffic. It's a long lap around here, DJ. So I'm sure they'll catch the back of the field at some point, but they've still got time.
Yeah, I mean, lap times here, even by our leader, the fastest lap that we've really seen is about a 2:03.23. And so it does take a hot minute to be able to get around this Suzuka circuit. So certainly going to take a little while for all of them to be able to catch back up, and we get to deal with that lap traffic. But as you said, Joe, I think it's going to happen before this race is over, and that's going to really create some, frankly, very interesting plays here as things go along.
Little surprised at Kerry Brooks. It must be really stiff competition this season, or Series 10, I should say, because I thought that he would try and charge at least back up into the top 5 by this point. But he's been stuck back here, DJ, with really not much of a show of aggression to try and make up positions.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised as well. I would have thought that he would have wanted to try to put a little bit more, as much as possible, and really put some pressure here, but it looks like he's relatively content to be where he is. I haven't seen a whole lot of aggression out of him. Maybe we'll see it here in the final half of this race, but who knows?
Yeah, maybe this is what we were talking about earlier, just holding on to the tires or something. Certainly not doing, or at least not showing signs of trying to hold back. Robbie Prescott, our leader, is already up to 10 seconds ahead, looking like he's potentially on a way to a relatively easy win here, but you never know. The satellite driver could still have some sort of mistake, or maybe lap traffic could play a part later on, like we said, as we ride on board with him, heading up the spoon. We're talking about smooth earlier. Prescott looking like he is in complete control.
Yeah, I mean, he is just doing exactly what he needs to do. Calm, decisive movements there on the steering wheel. Not seeing a lot of micro corrections coming in or out of the corner. He's just running a great race and continues to be setting fastest lap after fastest lap. His last time of asking was a 2:03.22. That's the fastest lap we've seen. And just to give you an idea, that is almost 2 full seconds faster than Chris Cook on that last lap. He is cooking out there.
Oof. Man, this is going to be a tough one for everybody else. Wonder if this championship is also going to be tough overall. As I said, Robbie was looking consistent over the first 2 events, and again, they're swapping between cars each time. So this will be fascinating to watch. Meanwhile, as we jump back to the battle between Brooks, Eddie, and Sigourney, well, there's our answer. Brooks is going to try and overtake with a little bit of strategy, pitting in from 7th.
You know, I like that call here from Kerry Brooks. Coming on in, also looks like Joe Sinclair is going to do the same thing, and probably weighing Sinclair's hands here a little bit more as the damage on the front end of that number 212. We've also got a couple of more drivers coming down in. That's going to be Mario Gonzalez taking their pit stop here at this point as the number 777 machine gets everything woed down and brings their way down into pit lane.
Let's not forget as well, the drivers do have a spare car waiting for them in pit lane if they accrue some damage. Now, they might want to save it, though. It all depends, I guess, DJ, if they don't feel like they're being slowed down, as that was a bit of a pass there around Dunlop Curve. Didn't quite catch who that was that we're watching there. But managing to make the position, that looks like Lyle Eddy actually going by Sigourney. And after all that time of watching Brooks, have to sit behind the pair of them, that pass looked quite easy.
Yeah, it really and truly did. As I think that may have been a little bit of an assisted one there, maybe just kind of recognizing what's coming up behind him and recognizing that move to get out of the way.
Yeah, it could be. Maybe just didn't feel like he had the pace, didn't want to be under the pressure. So Brooks is back out. Where did he emerge? In 28th place, long ways down and in a little bit of traffic. So things just still not going the way of Kerry. Checking in on Prescott. Now, we're not expecting him to pit in this time, mind you, as most times the drivers will try and go long. And let's see here. Yeah, not making motions to the inside. So he is going to stay out and probably continue on for a number of more laps before we see him pitting. What about Brandon Harrison? Back here in 17th. Now up 23 thanks to a few drivers having pitted.
Yeah, Brandon's having himself a great race here at this point, and really and truly, it's only about 3 drivers that have pitted at this point, so let's call that a net gain of 20 on the day here for the number 31. It's a very, very impressive drive, and it looks like he may be able to make that 21. Gross is,
That's Walton, who goes off into the barriers. There looked like there may have been the lightest of touches, but I'm not sure if that was that or netcode. Also looks like Harrison kind of missed the chicane a little bit because of that, so he had to take a slowdown penalty. So there goes some of his gains that he's made so far, but we'll see what the stewards think of that. I'm sure they'll have at least a little bit of a look at it. Bit of a shame if he does wind up with some sort of black flag from here. He's now following behind Dean Chapman.
Yeah, and Chapman just trying to hold on here at this point. This is now the battle for 16th position. I am hearing from our director that there was some netcode involved in that incident, so I would be almost a little bit concerned here taking a look at the back of Harrison's machine if maybe there's a little bit of damage. I mean, that was a pretty high-speed section, and even some side-to-side contact can cause a little bit of bodywork damage.
Yeah, Walton definitely came into the pits immediately to try and take some repairs or his free car and get back out there. Yep, standard stop for him. And he's back out onto the circuit. So we continue to watch Harrison behind Dean Chapman, really putting the pressure onto that 610 machine, trying to look around the outside as Chapman defends. Behind them, Derek Dirksen also closing in along with Nielsen, as that was a great exit from the 31. Does he dare try it into Spoon, or are we going to get another defensive move from the 610?
Well, if we get a defensive move from me here from the 610, let's see how Harrison can respond to it. I've seen moves around the outside of Spoon work before, but it's not going to play itself out this way. I think what Harrison's doing is probably the smart way. He's focusing on the exit of Spoon here. Wants to get the best run into the corner, as that's the 26 there of Dirksen getting into the wall.
Oh, I think that was all on his own. Just overcooked the tires coming off the curve. As Baker now pitting in. He's still a driver that has 0 incidents to his name. Don't forget, they're all competing for that $250 merchandise gift certificate this season. So if he can get a 0x this race, that will go a long ways towards increasing his chances there. Meanwhile, this is Prescott once again. It's up to 17 seconds over Lacroix.
That is just remarkable. I mean, there is no other word to say about it. It is remarkable. It is almost superhuman, as here comes Chris Cook right into the middle of a battle. That is not what the 47 wanted to have happen as he came out of the pits.
Oh, this is awful timing for him. That's the fight between Chapman and Harrison just in front of him. Big wiggle coming from Harrison. He catches it, and he's able to keep it on the track, but clearly they are feeling a bit of the effects of having to scrub these tires back and forth across the asphalt.
Yeah, they're really starting to wear here at this point. And remember what I said earlier. This is Japanese asphalt, and the grip levels, it's a little bit slipperier here, and that just has to do with the actual use of the soil that is put into the asphalt to make the concoction. And so it's a different level of grip here, and it always throws drivers out. It's one of the things you really have to practice for when you come to a Japanese racing circuit.
Down into the braking for the hairpin, just not close enough. He's been tantalizingly close, though. At times, I feel like he's got this one done. Just like right here, look at that great exit. He's all over the top of him, but last time he didn't try and make a move. Is he going to do differently this time?
It looks like he's got enough of a run, but sweeping around the outside there is going to be Chapman, and shutting the door on Harrison here once again. Harrison's a little bit wide coming through Spoon, but let's see if that's going to allow him to carry a little bit more momentum. Takes a later apex there off of the corner. It's a good run, but I don't think it's good enough here at this point.
No, he has to be a bit careful, too, because Klaus there behind him is probably ready to pounce if he has just a little bit of a hiccup in the overtake. But Klaus is slow off the corner while Harrison is quick, and he tries to make a little bit of a move down into the triangle, but nothing doing, as Chapman still covers him off. Now he gets a little bit of a hit, and that moves Chapman out of the way.
And that's going to jump Chapman down 3 positions. I think they would call that in the South a little bit of a bump and run there, Joe.
Yeah, but I don't know if the stewards are going to take too kindly to that sort of racing. And even Dean Chapman is already on the radio for them to take a look at it. I wonder, curious if they're going to give a penalty or if they'll just order Harrison to give the position back.
Well, it's going to be difficult here considering Chapman's down 4 positions, or 3 positions to Harrison. Harrison would have to sacrifice a spot to Nielsen and Cook. As we take a look here, Kerry Brooks coming out of pit lane in a little bit of a battle.
He tried to undercut his rivals. Did it work? It looks like. I think it did. Yes, that is Eddie just behind him. So Brooks has managed to jump both him and Mike Sachs. No, Mike hasn't pitted yet. And looks like Brett Holmes there in behind him. So this worked out a treat for the 77. It'll jump him up at least 1 position, it looks like. We'll see if it gets him 2.
Well, and the great news here for him is because he came out where he did, Lyle Eddy is now into a little bit of a battle with Mike Sachs, and that's slowing down Eddy. That's giving Kerry some time to breathe here and allowing him to extend a gap on tires that are already up to temperature and ready to go.
And cue the sad trombone. Kerry Brooks has been given a black flag. So though he made a great strategy call, it's going to be all for naught, and he's going to have to come in and serve that one. That is a real shame. It's been a day gone completely awry for that number 77, but you got to keep it clean out there. The stewards are always on it in this series.
Yes, indeed you do. There is absolutely no way that you are going to be able to keep yourself going around and get a good position here if you find yourself picking up penalties like that. That is not what you want to have happen.
So Avijit Barua in the meantime just ahead of Ben Leung. Terrence Tong pits off to the side, so that promotes both of them up a position. Still waiting for a few of our front runners to pit in. Prescott, our leader, Sigourney, Fricke, Glenn, Yokel, all needed to pit along with this pair that we were watching a moment ago. There's Prescott on your screen, and he has started to catch a bit of the lap traffic. That's Jonathan Fields behind him, so don't worry, he hasn't been caught up that quickly.
No, certainly hasn't here, and I wonder just how much lap traffic Robbie's going to have to deal with. I mean, we are over halfway in this race here at this point, and he's only caught a few, and he still has to come down into pit lane. Now, the rest of the cars around him do, but I don't think lap traffic's going to be nearly as much of a problem as we thought it was.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. It's such a long lap that hopefully shouldn't really mess them up all that much. Even though it's a technical circuit, there's enough long straights. I think they should find places to get by. So let's see. We're down to 23 minutes left to go. Prescott could maybe stay out there a little longer, I imagine. Maybe about 4 more laps. And after that, he'll probably have to come in. Let's see what he decides to do this time. If he feels like it's worth pitting now. Nope, he carries on and starts lap 19.
Well, I think here for Prescott at this point, what you may as well do is just keep running around here until you find yourself up against a little bit of a gaggle of lap traffic, or you run out of fuel. And at this point, the only car that he's going to be closing down on is Derek Dirksen up ahead of him, who's not all that far up the road. I mean, he's got a little bit of time here, but it's about 6 seconds. So I think just run this out until it's dry, Joe. That would be my strategy call if I'm Robbie Prescott.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. I mean, he has no need to do something risky. Just play the safe and easy route and get to the end of that fuel stint. Take a leisurely amount of fuel and then get to the end at a decent pace. He's built up such a gap. Meanwhile, this is back with Bowers now in 26th position. He's already taken a pit stop, but we've got roughly a dozen drivers that still need to come in out of these 42 that started. We've only lost Fernandez and Powell, so 40 of them are still out on track. And coming up into 130R, J.R. Gregory and Dave Stewart were very close, but it looks like that very swift left-hander has separated cars once again.
Yeah, as it has a once to do there, Joe. The massive aerodynamic loads that are put through the cars. Whoa, that was a very close moment for J.R. Gregory as hopping into the pit lane in front of him, and I think he had the lift. You saw that little bit of a breath there out of Gregory, and now Volker Krebs recognizes an opportunity.
Yeah, that car pitting in just was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Krebs is going to be able to get by, but remember, Krebs is not fighting him for position at the end of this race, most likely, because Volker still needs to take a pit stop. For Gregory, it's Scott Bowers behind him that he needs to be wary of. That's one thing I honestly would love to see with iRacing. While we do have the radios, I'd love to see some sort of way to put your fist up in the car to motion that you're going to be slowing down to take a pit stop.
Yeah, I would love to see that as well as a way to be able to kind of give that indication. You saw it from JR. That was just a big heart and mouth moment. You saw him breathing pretty heavily after that, and I can't say I blame him.
Yeah, you got to be on your toes here. You can't look away for just a second. Imagine if he'd been looking away just a split second there. He would have plowed into the back of that car, and it would have been a massive accident. Embarrassing and miserable for both of them. Scott Bowers, in the meantime, still trying to capitalize now that he's had Gregory kind of reeled into him by that little mistake. And he's unable to make any sort of pass right now. That blue and black machine just keeping at arm's length.
Yeah, and just a question here sent over to us by the YouTube chat. Thank you for joining us, by the way. It was the penalty for Kerry Brooks was when he and Steinbrink got into one another at about the 36-minute mark. So that is what the penalty was issued for. But now here comes Gregory on a little bit of a fight back on Krebs.
And Krebs is slowing down. Checking to see. I don't see a slowdown penalty, but I may have gotten to it too late, so maybe he did have that. He does pull out of the way, which I'm sure is a sigh of relief for both of these cars since they're not fighting him for position. Maybe that's Volker's way of just trying to make sure he gets down to the pit lane without running into any problems. We're now checking in with Terrence Tong in 20th position, which is just in front of what we were watching before, and he's being promoted up a couple more spots now that we've had Mike Sachs pitting in.
Yeah, Sachs is going to be the latest to come down into pit lane. Also looks like Julian Velez will be coming in here at the moment. Pit stops varying here on a pretty big, wide variety. I'm seeing as quick as 10 seconds and as long as about 25. So pretty clearly some wide parity here when it comes to pit stop strategy.
Indeed, back through the S's once again. Owens and Mazzariello just in front, neither on the same strategy here as Terrence Tong. He wants to make hay while the sun shines, or while it doesn't in this case, the way the race is going. And down into Degner 1, he does manage to overtake Mazzariello. Next on his list, going to be Owens.
All right, and we're going to jump up here to Chris Cook, who's trying to have a little bit of a fight with Brandon Harrison, who is one of the drivers who has not pitted here yet. He is up a whopping 32 positions, but again, hasn't pitted. But Joe, looks like here that Robbie Prescott and Peter Sigourney both coming in pit lane.
Fricky also pitting. David Glenn manages to stay out, so he might be our driver with the lightest right foot. No, Yokel's going to follow him, so a couple have been able to save enough fuel. Avijit Barua as well, Ben Leung, but that's a good number of front runners now that have taken their stops. Prescott's back out. He only lost the one position from Glenn. He's still in P2.
That is just absolutely remarkable from Robbie Prescott. I mean, talk about a dominant performance here today. Did a very good job to be able to keep his way ahead.
Yeah, just really amazing up there from that number one. So David Glenn going to be able to at least lead a lap here and get his time in the spotlight, about a second and ahead of Prescott for the time being, just under 2 seconds really. But he's going to have to hand that back soon. We'll see how he likes to clear air. We need roughly 6 cars to come in and take their stops now. And into the hairpin. Curious if Prescott's fast enough, if by the end of the lap he actually will catch Glenn and pass him on the track.
Maybe he will here. I mean, the gap's only 1.6 seconds, but I've got to imagine here that David's going to be coming down into pit lane on this lap. I guess there are a couple other drivers that have been able to stay out there. Yokel, Barua, Leung, Harrison, and Chapman have all been able to make it around, but I think this is probably going to be the end of that pit stop window.
Yeah, most likely. These 6, just the only ones that have been able to stretch the fuel quite that far. We'll see if that helps them out in terms of pit stop. Remember, while everybody does need roughly the same amount of fuel to get to the end, if you can save enough that it's a significant difference in your stop time, you can try and leapfrog a few people. And for David Glenn, this is not the track you are looking for. He's going to duck off, and he is going to head into pit lane to take his fuel. Prescott retakes the lead. Let's see if Yokel, Barua follows suit. No, wow. Yokel carries on. Barua carries on. Leung goes in.
Color me impressed here, Joe. I thought that was going to be the end for sure, and clearly Matthew Yokel and Avijit Barua proving me wrong. Brandon Harrison also staying out here at this point. It looks like Leung and Chapman are in, and that means that the only 3 left out that haven't taken their pit stop are Yokel, Barua, and Harrison.
I was checking because there are similar colors on the 991 and the 38, but I don't think they're teammates. So I was curious if maybe that was the reason for 2 cars so close together being able to stay out. We're checking back in with Chris Cook as he's got Brandon Harrison in front of him. Oh, and Harrison hasn't pitted yet either. Wow. Okay. Harrison, another driver. Wow, I can't believe he's made up this much positions, because remember, he made all those passes, and yet he was saving fuel. This is an unbelievable performance by the 31.
Yeah, it really and truly is here, Joe. This is something to keep an eye on, and especially considering that a lot of these drivers that we've seen take later stops in the race, they don't need as much fuel, and so they're just putting a little bit less in the tank, and we're seeing 10, 15-second stops out of them. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility here that Harrison could find himself coming back out up into maybe the top 15 of this race.
At 15th, currently Brett Holmes. And he's roughly 40-some seconds behind. Yeah, I think that could be possible here. We'll see. Harrison still leading ahead of Cook, who's probably feeling a little frustrated if he's aware that Harrison hasn't pitted. We don't know if he knows that or not, but I'm sure he wants by regardless. Let's see if they actually pit in this time. Usually, drivers who try to go this long and save fuel have a little bit of slower pace, hence my surprise that he was able to overtake cars on raw pace in the first half of the race, so he goes very deep into it. Cook looking like he's trying to save that fuel as much as he can. Now he dives away into the pits to take his service.
And that's going to finally bring him on in. I can also tell you that Yokel and Barua have come in, so this is officially the end of the pit stop window, as absolutely all of the drivers have come down to get their service.
That was impressive stuff. I can't believe they made it that far. So Cook gets promoted in a second, and it's David Glenn up into P3. A gain of 9. Fricky behind him is up by 12. There are some serious hard chargers in this group. Again, the club class is just one level below pro, which is the highest you can go. Once you reach this point, if you're making up that many spots at the sharp end of the field, you're doing something amazing.
Yeah, you're doing something very, very impressive. And he was able to gain one more there. He's able to come out ahead of Matthew Yokel as they come out of pit lane. And that's going to slot him out into 18th position there with a whole gaggle of cars right in front of him. This is a bit of a danger zone.
Well, your prediction was just 3 shy there. It was very close to him for him being in those top 15. Barua in front of him obviously exited out of the pits at the same time, but that's Bowers and Chapman battling with Gregory, Brett Holmes, Terrence Tong. That goes all the way up to 12th place there. About a second quicker, he probably would have been in P12.
Yeah, exactly, and it's a great run here, and I think with as stacked up as these cars are in front of him, I think he's got more positions to gain. I think Brandon Harrison's got a few more on the chopping block.
No doubt. Oh, he goes a little deep, though, and there goes all that hard work. He's off into the kitty litter out of the Degners. He keeps it out of the barriers critically, but he'll return onto the track down in 22nd now.
Yeah, and that car was looking a little bit squirrely coming into the pits as well, Joe. Remember how we saw him make that little bit of a mistake and then try to get on the power coming into pit lane, and the car looked like it was moving around a little bit. I wonder if, even though he was saving he was saving fuel, if he wasn't able to save tires in that early run, and that came back to bite him.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, well, he loses a couple spots, but he could make them right back up because he's still on the back end of that train here. Just got to be frustrating to know that that little slip-up was so costly. Meanwhile, for Barua here, kind of stuck in the middle between Adamczyk and Holmes. Adamczyk getting a little uncomfortably close to him back there.
Yeah, and there comes a little bit of a poke out from Klaus Nielsen, though. That was going to be that purple and black car that you saw poking out of line, and now Harrison trying to take a little bit of a look onto the back of Klaus as they dive down into turn 1, trying to see what they were able to do. By the way, we've got another penalty being issued out. Mike Sachs has been black flagged for an incident not too long ago, and it looks like Velez has retired from the race.
More dramas. That's only the 3rd retirement we've had, though. Relatively clean race, I must say. Yes, we've had a few black flags, but it looks like they've been doing a great job out here, veering off the course, though. That's not a good job for Kevin Douglas, who goes all the way off into the paved runoff, returns in 21st.
He's going to find himself there and going to find himself in a little bit of problems. He's still going to be able to hold on to the touch with the back of the train here at this point, and not lose too much to Brandon Harrison, but still not what he has wanted to happen.
Now down to 10 minutes left to go. I also see Jake Steinbrink in pit lane, and he has been in there for about a minute and a half. Hope he's able to get back out onto the circuit before this is over. Don't want to see a 4th retirement here this quickly. Whoa, and we got another one down into the exit of the Oh, no. Oh, and he's into the tires. Couldn't get it slowed up in time, trying to re-enter the track safely. So I think that was Holmes that unfortunately just overshot things.
Yeah, I think it was as well. As we take a look back at the front of this field here, Avijit Barua leading this train. This is the battle for 15th position to try to see who can hold on to it here and who wants to stay in this train, Joe, because it seems like everybody's just kind of throwing themselves off here.
Exactly. I was right. That was Holmes. He is our latest DNF, unfortunately. Now 4 drivers that are gone, 2 of them in very quick succession, sadly. Meanwhile, going to be watching the run up the back stretch here. Still a chase between the likes of Barua and Adamczyk. This is for the 15th position now. Steadily gaining spot after spot. Ooh, behind them, way off in the back there, that is Yokel, who uses that little bit of AstroTurf to help him out. Thankfully doesn't spin it. I've seen so many cars over the years, DJ, lose grip on that slippery green surface and then just fire into the barrier on the left.
Yeah, as have I. It's a very, very scary place, and it's because you've got all of the load onto the right side of the tires, and they just search for that grip on a strip of material that is designed to not have grip on it, so to punish you if you go a little bit wide. But we jump up here. We've got another battle a little farther up in the field. This is Robert Lacroix trying to close down on Kim Fricke. This is the battle for P4.
Yeah, Lacroix up 3 is completely overshadowed by Kim's plus 12 here today. And he's going to try and make up for that and demote him at least one more if he can. Coming down through towards the spoon curve once again. You can feel a bit of that slipstream in these Cup cars. They do punch a pretty decent sized hole in the air as they enter into spoon. Long left-hander, different lines between the pair of them, a little bit tighter down to the apex for Robert. And look at all the car lengths that gained him. He is now right on that rear fender.
Yeah, he is going to be all over the back here. The question for Lacroix is going to be is he has got to try to stay in close behind as they go in through 130R. Going to take a little bit of a peek, and that's going to cost him some running room, but he's able to get a great run out of the corner. Here he goes, challenging to the outside of the Casio triangle. Later on the binders, and I think if he's able to whoa that car back up, that's Lacroix muscling his way on through.
Real textbook stuff there from the 64. Just sliced his way around the outside and managed to get that P4. Looks like we've lost another one, but this not due to an incident. Klaus Nielsen lost his internet connection. Let's check back in with Harrison. Back up to P18. Has gained a couple of those spots from the attrition that has been rearing its head once again. And now in front of him, Matt Yokel is being sized up.
Yeah, and speaking of drivers that are trying to fight their way around here, obviously Brandon Harrison doing a fantastic job. Not able to get the run that he would have liked to there through 130R. Couldn't get the move to fly, but he's going to try to see what he can do here. Going to get the nice benefit of the draft down the start-finish straightaway. But again, as we've talked about, so difficult to make this pass work into one, and Harrison's going to have to wait for another corner.
Still, he's where he kind of needs to be right now. And I'm sure he'd love to see Adamczyk get a little bit more aggressive on Barua in front of them so that maybe he could get more than just one position in the ensuing melee. Only 6 minutes left to go. Where is our leader? Holy cow, our leader's on the other side of the circuit completely and is getting ready to start lap 27. So this is going to mean 3 laps to go here.
Yeah, 3 laps to go at the line for your leader, Robbie Prescott. And the good news for him is he's got a nice little bit of breathing room before he's going to run into 32nd place car of Jason Brodigan up in front of him. And that's going to be the next lap car that he has to get by.
I just saw a blink there from Prescott, and I really hope he doesn't lose this race over an internet connection. That'd be the absolute worst tragedy for that number 1 because he's been flawless out there. He doesn't need something outside of his control to take it out of his hands. Chris Cook, there you go. That's the difference there. 21 seconds between the 1 and the 47, between P1 and P2. It's just a massive gap at the moment.
And it continues to grow here, Joe. I mean, Prescott put in a 2:03.6 on the last lap. Cook, a 2:04.6. That is just how much faster Robbie Prescott is.
So Robbie just spanking the field today and really schooling everybody. Ooh, Harrison down through 130R. A little bit wide, but a little bit fast, and he gets down to the inside. Can he make it stick? Not quite.
Not quite able to do it, but whoa, I thought he was going to get a great run there off of the triangle, but it looked like the rear end of that car absolutely wanted to step out on him. Those tires on the rear end, Joe, they look pretty shot.
Man, can't believe what Harrison has been able to do today. Saving fuel, passing a lot of cars, dealing with a loose vehicle, and still he's fighting hard to try and get what positions he can at the end. Despite being 22 positions up from where he started this race, he could have just cruised this one to the finish line and still feel pretty proud of himself, but he is pushing all the way to the checkers.
Yeah, he is fighting and scrapping for absolutely every position, and it's the kind of thing that you love to see as a race fan, somebody that's got that never say die attitude. But just as how close as Yokel, Adamczyk, and Barua continue to run in front of him, he's got a chance to be able to maybe sneak a couple of more positions away here.
Interesting to note, I didn't pay close attention to who was doing what tire-wise, but we're getting info that Lacroix did take tires. And remember, he managed to pull a great move on Fricky and got himself into 4th place. So could he chase down David Glenn now? Let me check the lap times here, actually. Lacroix with a 2:05.2, 2:04.3. Glenn, 2:04.2, 2:04.7. So mixed bag between them.
Yeah, a little bit of a mix, but thought we were going to have a little bit of a pass there farther back down in the field between Yokel and Harrison as Harrison tried to be able to make that move once again. But let's see here. I mean, Lacroix, he's only got 1.8 seconds to try to gain down on David Glenn. I think this is possible.
0.7 faster that time. Lacroix has gained a lot. We're back down to J.R. Gregory in the meantime. Battle in the mid-pack. There's been plenty of action here, fighting for every position they can. Terrence Tong, the one in front of us, there in that 388. All he has to do is survive 2 more laps.
Yeah, he's just got to try to withstand here, but with the pressure that Gregory's been able to put onto the back of him, that is a lot easier said than done. He's not going to quite get the run here down the start-finish straightaway, I think, and Terrence can breathe a little bit easier, although there's a little bit of a fade there from Gregory, probably just trying to see if he can force Tong offline, but Tong not having any of it.
Whoa, almost getting together with him. Has to be careful. He does not need to cop a penalty here by accidentally tipping that car around.
No, he certainly does not. That is not what he wants to have to do whatsoever. Let's see here as they work their way through the S's right now, trying to see if anything can play.
Also worth noting that Steinbrink has become our 6th retiree of the race. We watched him take repairs for a long time, and I think he decided enough was enough. He's not going to be able to get it on the track. Meanwhile, Robbie Prescott comes around to take the white flag for 1 lap to go. He does have lap traffic. Jason Brodigan just in front of him, and Mozzarella a long ways up the road as well. And I just heard over the radio that he's going to let Robbie by, and as we ducked away to another battle, he was able to overtake.
And what we just checked in on, by the way, that was Joachim Baker losing a couple of positions there, I think, to Leon and Gonzalez. I think that was a little bit of an off by Joachim, and that's what sent him farther back down through the order.
Interesting stuff here today. Some drivers that definitely are going to be regretting this one. Brooks is down 25, Fields down 22, Reese down 14, Bowers down 15. But then you look at those who have gained, the one we've been watching all race long, Harrison's up 22 out there, up 11 for Fricky, up 16 for Ben Leon. There have been just some stellar performances here at Suzuka. A technical track has forced the drivers to really pick up the ball and play, and some of them have really put in a stunning show.
Yeah, they certainly have, and it kind of goes to what I said at the beginning of the race. This is a track that if you are a driver's driver, if you love to just be able to go drive and hot lap, you are going to find this track to your absolute delight. And a lot of these drivers doing an absolutely fantastic job to be able to get through this with very few incidents and some very good racing.
Glad we're giving a little love here to Prescott. We've only taken glances at him briefly to just show, yes, he's still out there at front. 24 seconds now ahead of Chris Cook. His fastest lap at a 2:02.7 Compare that to Cook's fastest lap, a 2:03.8, more than half a second faster than what Chris Cook could do. Just unbelievable stuff. So, as the satellite driver brings it down to the last chicane, all he has to do is slowly navigate his way through. He gives it plenty of edge to the side of the course, and now he is going to take the win here for Event 3 in PCA's club class.
Dominant doesn't even begin to describe it here, Joe. Just a fantastic run for Robbie Prescott, as here is Chris Cook coming through 130R right now.
The podium for the 47. Something to be proud of himself. Yeah, he didn't have the pace for Prescott, but he was well away from any of his rivals. On top of it, Chris Cook going to finish P2, and then behind David Glenn. Boy, it was tight in the end. It only came down to about a second between Glenn and Lacroix. I'd say another 2 laps, and Robert Lacroix could have had a good shot at taking a podium today.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that, as more and more drivers here coming across the line right now. As there we see them all working their way on through. Just a really remarkable feat to see this many drivers crossing over the line.
Something's happened between Tong and Adamczyk. They were both off course at the end. I was trying to see if Tong had an incident on his own or if he had help. No, he did have help. He had contact with J.R. Gregory at the end. So Gregory's going to finish 12th as Tong just crawls across the line in 22nd. I'm almost sure that's going to be looked at by the stewards. Harrison almost pinched to the inside at the finish as he was racing Yokel all the way to the end.
Yeah, he certainly was. That was a great fight to the end. Also another good one there between Adamczyk and Kessel, which was only separated by about a 1/10.5.
Well, for poor Kerry Brooks, it's only going to be a 27. Came into this race second in the points. That's got to be a drop race for Kerry. Unfortunately, is the last of our 31 drivers on the lead lap will trickle across the line. Owen's going to beat out Krebs here by about 0.2 of a second at the last call. And that's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Break a little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way.
If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. At the Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guest lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange.
Welcome back to Suzuka here for Event 3 in the club class for PCA Series 10. Robbie Prescott takes the victory over Chris Cook, and it wasn't even really a contest. Look at that, 23 seconds between them. David Glenn finished P3, having come up from 12th place, as Robert Lacroix finished 4th, and Kim Fricke was 5th, up 11. Then it was Peter Sigourney in 6th position, while Eddie in P7 and Joe Sinclair finishing 8th. Ben Leung finished ninth, and then a 20-position gain for Mario Gonzalez to get a P10 today.
In 11th place, it was Joachim Baker, followed by Dean Chapman, then Avijit Barua, Matthew Yokel, and Brandon Harrison. That battle very, very close down to the wire. Kevin Douglas in 16th, followed by Peter Coomer, then Patrick Adamczyk, Scott Kessel, and Scott Bowers round out your top 20.
And there's the rest of the field. Sadly, a few DNFs farther down the order today, about 6 or 7 drivers not getting to see the checkered flag in this race. But we do have Robbie Prescott ready to talk to us. And I'm curious to hear if this one felt easy for him, because my goodness, you basically just left everybody in your dust today.
It's good to hear your boys' voices again.
Well, impressive effort out there. This is known as a real driver's track. Is it one that you'd say you enjoy?
Oh, this is by far one of the best tracks in the world, honestly, hands down. I was pretty nervous coming into practice and leading up to this because Cup car, believe it or not, was not my strongest car in the fleet that we're driving this season, but I put in so many extra hours in practice to really get this track down. And I mean, I watched some of the pro guys rip around the track and kind of follow and mimic what they did. And just with all the practice I did, I was able to come out here and bring her home in first place with a pretty smooth drive.
Yeah, it looks smooth from our perspective. I mean, were there any dramas at all for you? Because I'm not sure what to ask you about with such a dominant performance.
Yeah, there was one drama. I got 1X, and I was so mad.
Oh.
I know, right? But other than that, all the lap cars that I came up on, we talked on the radio, and they were so nice to me, just letting me by. So I'm very thankful for them. And at the start, I thought the start was going to be just chaotic and a wreck fest. So my goal was just to get as far as I could ahead of them as quick as possible, so I didn't have to get caught up in any shenanigans. But it looked like it was pretty clean from my angle. So my goal was just to drive as clean as possible, and whoever wanted to come with me could come with me.
Well, I mean, it seems like you're both good at the GT4 car as well as the Cup car. Next time out, I see that it is up to driver vote to try and decide. So, are you nervous about what they're going to decide, or you feel pretty comfortable in any Porsche?
Based off the past three races, I think I can drive anything now. Spa is probably my all-time favorite track to drive, so I'm super hyped up to get there or to drive on it. So next thing is just starting to, as soon as they let us know what car we pick, just hop back in the seat and practice, because I want to keep putting myself in a good position to go for podiums.
Based on what you've been doing, I think a podium's a pretty good bet. Congratulations on the win today.
Thank you.
That was Robbie Prescott, your winner, as DJ is now caught up with Chris Cook, who may not have had the pace, but as I said, kind of ran away from even those behind him.
Yeah, certainly did. Chris, you had a pretty quiet race out there, and I've got to say, it's a pretty darn good thing, especially if you're coming home P2.
Absolutely, especially in this Cup car, which is just absolutely impossible to master, except for Robbie. He can master it.
Well, talk to me about some of the challenges that you were facing out there, because it looked like a lot of your competitors fell into some problems, and I think you were able to get away here with the 0X, if I'm correct.
Yeah, not quite. I picked up 3X, which is fine. No big deal. I'm not racing for incident points. But yeah, terribly challenging in my practice earlier. I had a lot of incidents. I didn't think I was going to do well tonight, and then I pulled it out. And it's amazing what happens when the rubber meets the road.
Well, next time up, we head to Spa in the driver's choice car. How do you feel about Spa, and what are you hoping for is going to be the car?
Oh, Spa's a new track for me. I'm hoping for the Cup car, the GT3R, not the Cup car. I'm still sweating bullets over here. What can I say?
Well, I get that, my friend. We'll let you go and calm down a little bit, but anybody you'd like to thank for this run here tonight?
Oh, of course. Got to thank Podium. Got to thank the PCA for putting this on. My great crew chief, Ryan Kelly, helped me out a lot tonight. And then, of course, my gracious wife for always being patient for me when I'm down in the basement.
All right. Thank you so much, my friend. That was Chris Cook, your second place finisher here tonight.
That will take us to David Glenn, who finished P3. Things were a little bit nervy, at least at the end for David, as Robert Lacroix looked like he was kind of gaining. Were you watching that gap?
I definitely was. Well, I didn't expect to be in P3, but I guess I jumped people in the pits, not taking tires. I don't know if other people did or not, but keeping calm and on the track worked out. There was a little incident early in the race where somebody was blinking in and out and checked up somebody in front of me on the back straight and caused a little pileup, which lost me 3 spots. But just followed a train for a long time with Sinclair and some of those guys, and got him in the pits, I think. But it worked. That was fun. That was awesome.
I had almost forgotten about that you were involved in that crazy incident down through 130R. I assume, did you have to take your spare car when you did that? How much damage did it cause?
Well, it didn't seem to cause a lot because my lap times were pretty normal, and that was 3/4 of the race. But I think it swapped out anyway, just to be safe for that last 15 minutes.
Now, we can't go without mentioning the Star Wars-sized elephant in the room. This is one of the coolest setups of anybody out here. You want to tell us a little bit about what you got going on here?
Well, I'm a game developer, so you might recognize probably the most famous game I worked on, which is Diablo 2, which is the poster in the middle there. Sorry, I got my VR headset. That's how I'm chatting, so I can't really look at stuff. But the Stormtrooper I made when I was working on a Star Wars-based game about 10 years ago. And so that was kind of an incentive to finally get around to doing my childhood dream of building my own suit of white armor. So pretty fun. I wear it at Halloween, so it's a fully functional suit.
Wow. Okay. That we did not know in all of this. That is some really cool stuff, and awesome race today up to P3. Congratulations.
Thank you. That was super fun. Thank you guys for hosting these things. It's super professional. I used to race motorcycles professionally for a couple of years, and this is on par with any sort of broadcast I ever saw for that stuff with the AMA Pro Series. So this is super awesome. Really appreciate it. And the Porsche Club of America for hosting everything and all the admins. And congrats to Robbie. He was my teammate during the Zone Challenge. So it's great to see him up in front and just storming it. It's awesome.
Yeah, really showed him what's what tonight. That was that was David Glenn in 3rd place here today in the 172 machine, which is going to close us out. But before we go, a reminder that you can join us again here tomorrow night on April 13th at 9:25 p.m. Eastern for the Pro Class. We'd also like to thank our sponsors for Series 10, which of course includes the Porsche Exchange and Six Sigma Sim Racing. Also, a big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, DJ, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. Also, none of this is possible without those behind the scenes of Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.